Hello everyone! I am back today with a card making process. I'm going to be pulling some Wild Whisper stamps from my stash. I'm going to be using the brand new botanical stamp. I have some beautiful watercolor paper that we're going to be playing with and some white cardstock. And Nicole Wright's mixed media assemblage papers. So I'm going to start by making my own card bases. I'm just doing a regular A2 card, so my cards are going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This is some really nice white Nina cardstock from Cut Cardstock. They have lovely, lovely, beautiful cardstock there that I really enjoy making cards with because it doesn't crease or crack when you fold it, so that works really nicely. I'm going to use my bone folder to get a nice crisp fold in my cardstock. So I thought I'd show you some of the gorgeous patterns in Nicole Wright's mixed media pack of paper here. I have only used it to make cards, mostly because I am obsessed with the botanical stamp. So that paper is going to be the one I'm going to use, but I'm going to flip through these for you. Look at these gorgeousness. These are beautiful. They make amazing backgrounds for pages. And they're so pretty. I love the bright white. I love the beautiful patterns. So if you are looking for a mixed media look without the mixed media mess, these will definitely do that for you. I'm going to start with my card panels. So this is the Botanic stamp set from Nicole Wright and Wild Whisper, and I love this stamp set to the moon and back. It's fabulous. I'm going to start by taking some of my hot press watercolor paper. I'm using some Lawn Fawn dies that are just in my stash, and they're a stitch rectangle, so I'm going to go ahead and die cut these and get 2 watercolor panels that I can then stamp and paint on. I'm using this stamp in an offset way, so this is a really large stamp. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted these floral clusters to be coming in from the top or the bottom or corner, and then I want them to kind of float off the page in some direction. And so that's what I'm doing here is I'm stamping this Botanic stamp set. I'm using Altenew permanent black ink. I love this ink because you just stamp with it. It's really nice and crisp. And then you set it aside to allow it to kind of dry thoroughly and soak into the paper. And then once it's dry thoroughly, it's permanent, totally permanent. So you can color with Copics over it, you can color with watercolor over it, you can do anything you want once that ink is dry. And that's what I love about it. I do not have to worry about it bleeding or going off anywhere. So my 2 sentiments. The Grateful for This Day sentiment is from the Lake Life stamp set, and the You're a Gem sentiment is from the Wild Whimsy stamp set. If those are available in the shop, I will link them into the blog, but I'm not 100% sure that if they are available in the shop. I do know the Botanic stamp set will be there, and so is the mixed media paper. And you can always use my shopping code to save a little bit off of your order. I highly recommend the stamp sets from Wild Whisper. They're photopolymer. They stamp beautifully. They're gorgeous. They clean up like a breeze. So you can see here, I'm just going ahead and cleaning my stamps with baby wipes. Huggies baby wipes, because Huggies baby wipes are the best. Those are the ones they're nice and thick and heavy, and they don't leave lint. So as you can see here, I've turned my stamp this time. I'm going to kind of overlap it onto part of my sentiment, and I'm using so for the first card we use like the bottom part, and for this card we're using like the top part except at an angle, and I'm just going to go ahead and stamp this using the same permanent black ink. And you can see here how that turned out. It's beautiful and crisp, and now I just have to set these card bases aside, I'm just catching, so some, because the stamp is so large, I highly recommend that you use it, that you stamp it with a MISTI, because you're just going to get a better impression. Okay, so now we're going to color. I want the colors on these cards to be big and bold. I want some bright, bold colors on these. I don't know why I've stopped coloring right now onto this page, but I will come back to coloring in just a second. So I chose for these cards to color with Vicki Boutin's watercolor markers. These markers are beautiful. They're smooth, easy to color with, but most importantly, they are bold. Like, the color that comes out of them is just saturated, pigmented, gorgeous color. You can always go ahead and water these down to give them more of like a watercolor look. These markers are really, really useful. Really, you can do a lot with them. I'm choosing just to do them, excuse me, full color, straight to paper, bold color, because I want really bold color. And you can see here how bright and bold and saturated these colors are. So I'm going to use some purple. I'm going to use some blue. I kept a lot of my coloring in today. Now, I will tell you, you can see there I have the paper towel. So what I did was, sometimes, just because of how easily these pens flow, and because I am using them straight from the pen onto the paper, I did keep a paper towel close to hand so that if I ended up with too much ink on a section of these card panels, I could just blot it up super easy. You can see here how nice and smooth these pens color. Like, they just color so nice. And see here, like, I feel like that's a really deep blue, so let's pull some of it away. And you're really easy, very forgiving medium these watercolor markers are. So I just had so much fun. I went ahead and just colored all of these beautiful floral images. I used the pattern paper you can see off to the right to kind of color match, so that so I know what colors to pull. And I went with things like the purples and these bright blues, and the flowers I did in, I think the one is a corally color, and then the big flowers on both of these cards I did in really, really saturated, like a fuchsia color. But see how pretty these colors are. They're really, really nice. And they flow really easy. In fact, sometimes they flow a little bit too much. But that's why you keep the paper towel close to hand. So I'm just using my media mat to get an idea of the color that's going to come out before I go ahead and color with the marker. And I'm also kind of getting some of that excess ink off of my brush to make it easier to stay within the area I want to color. But look at how beautiful that pink is. Super bright. And yeah, I wanted really bright, bold cards. I wanted to be able to send out some notes to some friends, and I wanted something that was just super happy. I wanted colors that you opened them up and you just had to smile when you got the card. And so I'm hoping that I achieved my idea, my vision. Some of these colors I did go over twice. So this one, like for instance, this dark pink flower, I'm going over it very, very, not super carefully, just getting that ink onto there. And then I come back in and kind of do some of the detail pieces. And you can see here how I'm adding just a little more ink to the edges. And it just gives it just a little bit of a shadow. I wanted simple coloring. I wanted you guys to be able to feel like if you watch this video, you could totally do this. It's really not hard at all. And that was kind of why I chose the medium I chose for this. But mostly because I do have a lot of watercolor mediums. So, but I chose these just for the boldness. Okay, so now I've kind of turned around. I'm grabbing into my Roscad cart for some Nuvo drops because I want to add a little bit of dimension and texture to these. So this is English mustard, which is a yellow that really matches. And then I noticed that I had an extra little blue flower there that I totally forgot to color. And I'm going to do the second panel off camera, so you'll be able to see it at the end. But both of them, I did the same thing. I just colored with the Vicky Bouton watercolor markers, and then I came in with this Nuvo drops. These are English mustard, and there are these little like spindly pieces to the stamp set, and so I just added a little drop of yellow for just a little bit of color to those pieces on both of the cards. And now I'm going to, this is my favorite, this is the Meadow Morning Dew Nuvo drops, and they dry just clear. So I am just going to go ahead and add some clear droplets onto certain parts of the cards, just again for a little bit of more dimension and a little bit more shine. And now we're going to take both of these card panels and you're going to set them aside. Don't touch them. You want the Vicky Bouton watercolor markers to kind of get into that paper, dry thoroughly. You want the Nuvo drops to dry thoroughly. I would definitely give them overnight and just dry. That's their whole purpose. Set them somewhere that they can dry completely, totally, utterly. So now this is the next morning. They're dry. They're pretty. I'm showing you here the second one I did. And we are just going to go ahead and tape them all together. So I'm going to just tape runner. I'm going to do the stitched rectangles onto this pattern paper and then right to our card base. And that's going to complete these cards. So they are fun, they're beautiful, they're bright, they're bold, and I am absolutely in love with them. I think they turned out gorgeous. If you have not grabbed this pattern paper set yet, I highly recommend it. I cannot wait to play more with it. I know I've been doing a lot of travel things with this new release, the last new release, and I'm waiting patiently for my box to come because I have some new products that were released April 15th that are headed to me, winging their way across 2 countries to get to me from Canada to the US. And then here are both the finished cards and some close-ups. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this little card making session with me. And you can always head over to the Wild Whisper website. Grab yourself some of these fun goodies. You can use my code to save a little bit on your order. Then you can find the code below. It's DT Sarah, no H, all uppercase letters. All right, you guys have a fabulous, fabulous day, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye.